hot topic, my darlings, a bit different. And I want us to be very open-minded.
Yes.
And we have an open heart.
Yes.
Today we have a guest, but the guest will be joining us in about 15 minutes or before the half hour. She's caught up in traffic, and we will start with her. Our guest today, okay, I'll name her, then I'll also introduce her later, is Doreen Moracha. This is a HIV activist and a founder of something called A Beautiful Story. Today we want to have a conversation with her, demystifying the HIV stigma.
Yes.
Now, HIV came to be known or came to the public eye so much for me
Yes.
in the 80s.
Yes.
I remember there used to be a lot of billboards about it. Then we had a president called Daniel Toritich, the late Daniel Toritich Arap Moi.
Yeah.
And there are very many sensitization programs.
Yes.
Pardon me for that.
Yes.
Not only did I see billboards, I saw caravans. There were a lot of caravans. They put it in estates. There were pamphlets. There were documentaries. Things were being played in media houses so that people can understand. And the reason why today this topic is very passionate and we're bringing it to the fore is we realize that in our society, many of us tend to stigmatize people who have HIV.
Yes.
We stigmatize people living with this particular disease.
Yes.
We tend to, and the first time I've had people actually openly embracing these people is, let me say, in about 6 to 7 years. That's when I've seen like the narrative changing.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Many years ago, people never even wanted to share this space
Yes.
with people who had contracted HIV.
Yes.
And sometimes when you had someone had contracted HIV, the first thing people would think that this person was stray, was promiscuous. And even if they were, that is none of your business.
Exactly.
But I feel we need to have a conversation today, and better yet, we'll have a conversation with Doreen, who is the ambassador and an activist, and this is her passion and her thing, and I hope she'll be joining us. But before she joins us, I just want us to have that conversation between ourselves. Yani, let's just open our hearts and talk about it. Do you know anyone living with it? Do you have relatives? And how has the journey been? Because I would say I have relatives who have also come out.
Yes.
And some of them, they have something called a CDF count.
Yes.
I know CDF is something.
Yes.
It's coming. I'm just it's not getting my, but you get on.
Yes.
Like the antibodies.
Yes.
Because of medication, eating healthy and living a healthy life and a positive life, it has really changed their narrative for them. And I can say that initially when this disease came within our communities, our societies, we had certain communities saying, it's a curse.
Yeah.
Someone has been bewitched. We were in denial.
Yes.
And then when we realized it is, for example, you had a friend, a relative, we decided we can never say what disease they are suffering from. We were putting it under the carpet or in harsh tones. We never really spoke about it. So I like the fact that we're in a space where a lot of other diseases have come through. I know that it's a good thing, but it has given us a chance to talk about it. Then in this digital era, things have been made aware to us. Because initially, you'd hear someone who has contracted HIV or is is HIV positive. Someone would say, don't sit in the same room with them if they cough. Yet nothing will happen to you.
Yes.
Don't share with them. Yet nothing. I have relatives who are HIV positive, living positively. And they have seen their children grow. They have seen, like they've been with us, they're doing life with us. And people who are actually throwing stones at them have died and left them living.
I agree.
Yes. And I think the interesting thing about this and why I'm so happy that we're in a position where we can talk about this openly is because if you think back to those days where there was a very intense public stigma around this, what it meant is some people who may have been positive opted not to seek medical help, opted not to say anything. Maybe a lot of people were even afraid of really going and getting tested and checking on their health. And as a result, I mean, these are human lives that we're talking about. So the stigma alone isn't just what we perceive our world to be. But these actually have real life consequences that affect the people who actually live with this on a day-to-day basis. So the fact that we're in a position where we can talk about it openly is incredibly important, because it destigmatizes the people who live with it, but it also creates avenues to be able to have healthy and open dialogue. And that's really how we start to affect change in society.
Yes.
Well, for me, I'm a very very huge advocate on, HIV and AIDS, mental health awareness, etc. Those conversations are really strong to my heart. I had a relative who had HIV, and I did not know that she had HIV until I was an adult. And I don't know why it was chosen that information was chosen to be shared with me when I was an adult and not when I was a child. But when I think about the whole explanation of what this person has and how they received it and how they got it, it was so strange because I had never seen them sick.
Yes.
I'd never seen them at a situation where, like, they had posted, the way they used to show it on TV and the magazines of people who are living with HIV and AIDS. It's like what was being fed was completely different.
From what you were seeing.
This person looked like you and I.
Yes.
Healthy, fit, happy. Having a good time. And that's the memories that I've always had of this person growing up. So when I was told that, then have HIV, it still did not make sense. And I asked a lot of questions and I said, why didn't you tell me before? And I was told, oh, you were younger, or you would not understand. But I was like, I think we need to have conversations more, even with our younger ones, so that this stigmatization can stop from the grassroots, the kids. And as the kids grow older and the generations they bring behind them, they are living and dreaming in the same focus of whereby, number one, HIV is not a what is the word?
Life or death.
It's not a death sentence.
Death sentence.
HIV is not a death sentence. Number two, you can live with HIV for many years. You can have kids. You can get married. You can begin your careers. You can... it's a life of, it's like our lives. There's no difference. It's just that they have to be on medication and you don't. But it's not a death sentence. And I'm appreciating.
And there are other people with diseases.
And there are other people who have other diseases who are on medication. Diabetes, cancer, etc. But that's not the conversation
Health
today.
issues.
Health issues, mental health issues. And people living with HIV should not be set apart. They should not be separated. We are one. We are together. And I really thank this conversation for happening with adults, because as adults, the dynamics are different. We need to do better. We need to say no to people who stigmatize even in front of us. If we are really honest, we see a lot of stigmatization on social media.
Definitely.
We see a lot of stigmatization in workplaces, in matatus, in small places where in our homes, our families, we've experienced people who have failed to be employed because of their HIV status. I did a poll about 2 years ago and I said, what would happen if you found out your nanny or cleaning lady did not tell you, disclose to you, which is her right, her status, and then you got to find out because probably you went to snoop and you found things here and there. Very many people said, I would get rid of her. Other people said, I would keep her. And there was a whole conversation around it. So people need to give their opinions, and it's amazing. But those opinions need to be positive. They need to be for the betterment, for us eliminating stigma, for us eliminating negativity, for us creating a false narrative that doesn't exist. Because people living with HIV are people.
Thank you for that, Karigo. I love that.
Thank you.
If you are joining the conversation, we are the adults in the room, and today we have a guest. Our guest has just walked in. That is Doreen Moracha. We are talking about demystifying the HIV stigma. We'll be back with her and more conversation about that. Conversation. This is SpiceFM. The show is The Adults in the Room. Today we are talking about demystifying the HIV stigma, and we have a guest on the show. Her name is Doreen Moracha. And before we even introduce this particular guest, did you know that it's been 40 years since internationally HIV was declared a pandemic?
Oh, wow. 40
And it's
years.
40 years.
Wow.
And in Kenya, it is 37 years
Wow.
since it was declared a pandemic.
Right, right.
And we still have a lot of stigma. Yes, it's improving, but we still have a lot of stigma on it.
Yes.
We still have not found a cure for it. And there are many other things that are around it. And 40 years later, we are still having this conversation.
Yeah.
So it means there's a problem, and we need to try as much as possible to just break that particular ice. And to help us have this conversation is a lady that, according to my Googling, I feel she's a very, for her age, I would say this. For her age, she's a very brave woman.
Yeah.
A brave woman. And I congratulate you for being that brave.
Thank
Because even when I think I have bravery, I'm like, when I was going through some of the clips and some of your interviews, I was like, wow.
Yes, yes.
Karibu sana Doreen. And
Asante
who is
sana.
Dorine Mora?
Doreen Mora is just a young Kenyan woman who is living with HIV since she was born in 1992. She's also the founder of I Am a Beautiful Story. She is a young leader for the International AIDS Society, and she's also a member of the Generation Equality for Youth Task Force.
What is Generation Equality for Youth Task Force?
The Generation Equality Youth Task Force is a task force formed by UN Women to bring awareness around gender equality and women empowerment. And I represent the HIV constituency on championing for matters of HIV in the Gender Equality Forum.
Now, allow me just to take you back a bit. I heard you've said that you were born with this.
Yeah.
At what age did you know that, hey, I am HIV positive?
I was told when I was 13, but my parents knew about it when I was 8 years old.
Right. So
Yeah.
prior to you being 8 years old, it was still something that was being discovered.
It was actually not known.
Right.
My village people concluded it was their hands that was working in my life.
All right.
I know those things.
Yes.
Your villagers, some of your villagers thought someone was dancing around your name.
Exactly. So before that, actually, I was just a sickly child, but nobody really knew what was happening. So when I turned 8, I had an infection called herpes zoster. And that infection is now what led to me being tested. So the doctors tested like almost everything. And then they told my parents, how about we just test for HIV, we confirm. Because herpes zoster is one of the opportunistic infections.
Yes.
So the doctors tested and they were like, yeah, she is HIV positive. So, you know, an 8-year-old who is HIV positive has a lot of questions, you know, like,
Yes.
how is our 8-year-old daughter HIV positive?
Yes.
Yes.
So the first people were actually my parents. They were told, maybe you could get tested first, and then
we
we
can know.
from there. So they were tested. My dad is HIV negative. My mom is HIV positive.
Are you the only child in your family who is HIV positive?
Yeah, out of my 3 siblings, I'm the only one living with HIV. The other one passed on.
How's been the journey between 13 years? Oh, sorry, 8 years. They found out, they didn't tell you. Then 13 years to now, just when you're 18 or when you're an adult.
Yeah.
How has that journey been?
First of all, when I was told, my doctor was very straight to the point, like, Doreen, you're living with HIV, you were born with it, and you're going to start a new set of medication. It's called ARVs, and you're going to take them for the rest of your life. It did not really hit me like a bad thing. It was actually, I saw the advantages more than the disadvantages. First of all, before that, I was on Septrin.
Okay.
I never liked Septrin because it was such a big tab and very unfriendly for a child.
Right.
So I was
Because
like,
there were no ARVs that
there
time.
were no ARVs.
Yes.
ARVs were made public in 2003.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, as long as I'm taking different medication, I'm fine. And then I get to travel every other day every month to the clinic. That is also a good thing. For stigma reasons, we could not go to the nearest clinic, so we will travel from my hometown in Kisii to Kericho for medication. And also, every time my mom took me to hospital, I would get treats.
Yes.
chipo, kuku, soda.
Of
Which
course.
child doesn't like that?
Yeah, as a
Exactly.
child. That's
So,
amazing.
this was a turning point in my life.
Every month you're assured.
Every month, it is
Yes.
actually assured. Every month you are missing school legally.
Yes.
You are taking new medication. Then the medication for children that time was very colorful. There were many, but very colorful. So
Okay.
they used to entertain me.
Yeah.
Unlike the Septrin, that was just one pill, very boring, and I'd never liked it.
And too big for you.
And too big for me. So I was like, okay, fine. I am good with that. So I at that moment, I think I never really understood the complexities of living with HIV until now the following year. When I was going, because that time I was in class 8, so I was going to Form 1. And my mom refused to let me go to a boarding school. She told me, if you go to boarding school, who is going to give you a medication?
Yeah.
The food in boarding school, we all know how it
That
is.
Yes.
Yes.
So there is no way she was going to let me go and eat that food. So she told me just go to a day school. And I was like, okay, fine. So Form 1, I went to a day school. Very nice. I enjoyed my life. Same routine. It was marvelous. Until now, Form 2, this day school decided to become a full boarding school.
Wow.
Oh, so things had to change.
So things had to change. So I had to go to another day school. Still, the good things were happening.
Yes.
So now, at the end of the Form 2, it was now 2007, and the post-election violence happened. Our home is actually in the border. It's a border town. And so with all the violence, we had to relocate. So we relocated to Machakos. And that is now when the real challenges began. Now, I could not go to hospital every month.
Yes.
I had to go to hospital only during my holidays. The school that we got was a boarding school. These schools were a little bit far. So, and the school had a rule that if you have any health condition, you have to tell the matron and give them your medication for them to give you. So every 9 p.m. maybe you go and tell them, Mati, I want my medication. So you see, one of the other things the doctor told me when I was disclosed to was never tell anyone you're living with HIV.
Yes, actually, that
Yes.
has been the rule.
That was the rule.
Yeah.
So now how am I supposed to tell this matron I am living with HIV? I have this medication and you have to take, and I have to take them. It was not,
it was a challenge.
it was a challenge.
Yeah.
So now we had to find a way. Every opening, every midterm, my parents had to take me back to school. And imagine you are living on the other side of the road. So basically it is me coming. And even the other students were like, kwani wewe unapendwa aje?" Like, this love is too much.
Yes.
But they don't really understand that it's not really the overloving. It's more of them trying to find a way of getting the medication to me in school.
If you're joining the conversation, we're talking about demystifying the HIV stigma. Our guest is Doreen Moracha. We will be back with more conversations on that. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend, because this is a conversation you cannot afford to miss. Conversation is about demystifying the HIV stigma. And our guest today is Doreen Moracha. If you did not know, today, or rather not today, this year marks 40 years of HIV being a pandemic internationally. And there are many challenges that people living with HIV are facing. Some of them are facing them because of us, their friends, their families, who have a lot of stigma or have been playing a very bad game of not accepting them in society. And that is our conversation today. Doreen, before I get into you, before I give you another question, because I know Arnold has something he wants to ask you.
Okay.
You were talking about how the transition from high school into adulthood was. Please finish that for us.
So when, we kept hiding the medication, and anybody who would ask, how shared spaces are in high school, I will tell them I had a heart condition, and everybody bought that. And some of them would ask me, so how do you feel the symptoms of a heart condition? And I will give them symptoms that I really don't think were for a heart condition.
Yes.
Man, I'm sorry for that.
Yes.
So, and then life just moved on, and high school went by just like that, and
With your
everybody
heart condition.
with my heart condition, and everybody was sorry and used to help around, and it was nice. Yeah.
I see. So moving from this stage of your life where you were, you've now discovered that you have this this situation, and you're now trying to keep it as secret as possible.
Yeah.
What helped you, or what encouraged you to come out and publicly talk about it?
In 2012, I stopped taking my medication.
Yeah.
I became very sick. After I had gone to a place called Loliondo in Tanzania.
You went there, sweetie.
I went there.
And is that why you stopped taking the medication?
Yeah.
I see.
Wow.
So it's more circumstantial.
Yeah, because I saw something like
Babu.
that in one of her YouTube videos. I saw that you had stopped taking your medication. I didn't know why. So wow.
Yeah, I had stopped because Babu told us we were healed. Wow. And we believed him. So my mom stopped taking her medication for 3 months. And then she went back. Me, I stopped for 2 years.
Wow.
And so at the end of the 2 years, definitely my viral load was up. My opportunistic infections had started kicking in.
Yes.
So then after that, I went to hospitals. Definitely the counseling, nini. But you see, when the doctor tells you, take your medication, and you will be taking them for the rest of your life, the rest of your life is not 3 months.
Yeah.
It is a long time.
Yes.
And they never really understand that at some point you will get tired of that medication. So I just stopped. So they brought me back, told me, no, it's time you actually just took your medication. So after that, I was, during just that time, I was doing my attachment at the Teacher Service Commission. So we used to go out I was at the wellness section. So we used to go out, test people. But when you tell people come and get tested, they don't want to. So everybody's like, no, I've not done anything wrong. I know I'm HIV negative. So we tell them, when was the last time you got tested? They're like, I've never really gotten tested, but I know I am HIV negative. So that actually, so when we went back to the office, my boss was like, how about you just come out and tell people, before you encourage them to get tested, how about you just tell them, I am also living with HIV. Do I really look like a person living with HIV? No. So it's time you also just test, know your status, and life moves on from there. So actually that is what led me to now come out. So after that, my boss told me, write your story, bring it to me, and then I'll see what I can do with it. I was not willing to do that.
Okay.
Right.
Because I had been told never tell anyone you're living with HIV. And the first stigma I actually faced was from my family members who used to disinfect my utensils, disinfect my clothes and all that. So you see, telling strangers is not exactly a wise decision at that particular moment.
Yeah.
So I told her I will write the story, but at the back of my mind, I knew I was not going to do it. So one afternoon, I just sent an email to an editor of one of the local dailies.
Yeah.
Yes.
You had their contacts at least?
Actually, I was just reading the newspaper. And I was like, how about I just send this my story to this lady? And then I just wrote the email. And I was like, she will definitely not reply or she will ignore.
Yes.
But she replied.
Wow. Long behold.
And that is how I did my first interview on it was on newspaper. So they told me
Which
we are going
year
to.
was that?
That is what was in 2015.
Yes.
So they told me we are going to print it. And then I was like, oh my God, so everybody is going to read it. And then they told me, we have decided to upload it digitally. I was like, nobody's going to read it. And then they shared it on the Facebook page.
Wow.
Now
So there was no
everyone-
hiding.
And now everybody was tagging me and saying, this media house is spoiling your name. You don't have HIV. Oh my God, it was chaotic.
Wow.
I had to deactivate my Facebook account for that day.
Really?
So I came out on mainstream media and then social media found out later.
Right. My
Because
goodness.
you
Wow.
didn't know how to handle it at that time.
Yeah.
And now people were sending me emails because I had left my email. So people were sending me emails with so many problems. I was like, okay, when this is not exactly what I had in mind.
Counselor Doreen.
But now,
What are some of the problems, like the questions they were sending in? Because you see, now you've come out, you've openly, and now some people feel relatable.
Yeah.
So what are some of the questions they were asking
so
that made you feel, okay, this is not what I signed up for?
Right.
some of them were like saying, oh, you've encouraged me. Some of them were telling me, how do you manage to take your medication every day? Because me, I'm getting tired. Some of them were telling me, how do I find a partner? Because I am unable to disclose. Some of them were like, it is only me and my doctor who know I am HIV positive. So I was like, oh my God, okay, these problems are complex. They are far from the problems that I actually have. And the one that actually caught my attention that now made me see that we really do have a problem as a country was this man who has been taking his ARVs from the boot of his car. So he just comes home he like removes one pill when he's getting out of the office. When he's packing, he just drinks it and then goes home. And he had been doing that for like 3 years, and he was married, and his wife did not know he was living with HIV.
Wow.
So I was like, why don't you tell her? And he told me, if I tell her, she will leave me.
Wow.
So imagine you're living with a long life health condition,
Yes.
and you're doing it on your own.
Yes.
And you can't even open up to your partner because you do not know what they're going to think about.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a struggle. The ones who told me that they would leave theirs in the office desks were a little bit relatable. But this one really...
It really took you off. Huh?
Yeah.
Doreen, we're going to be back shortly because I want to hear more from you. If you're joining the conversation, we're talking about demystifying the HIV stigma. And today we have an HIV activist who is also a founder of A Beautiful Story, or I Am a Beautiful Story.
Yeah.
And trust me, she is definitely a beautiful story that I want you to sit back, just enjoy this music. Then we'll be back with Doreen Moracha. Woman who believes I'm going to survive. And if you're anywhere today and you're listening to this conversation and you're a HIV survivor, pardon me for that, you will survive and you will thrive. And you're not only going to be surviving, but you'll be thriving.
Yes.
Today's conversation is about demystifying the HIV stigma. And we have a guest on our show today who's a HIV activist and the founder of I Am a Beautiful Story. Her name is Doreen Moracha, and she's such a courageous woman, and she's gone through so much that you're like, wow. At some point, people thought she had a heart disease.
I know.
Yes.
Then they realized later she doesn't have a heart disease, and they were tagging her on a post saying, people are spoiling her name.
Rumor
Not knowing
mongers.
that she's the one who started spoiling her own name.
I'm telling you, she was the author.
No, the author of this
Yes.
story that we are all telling, and she's such a beautiful story. And it's not only spoiling her name. Now, this has come to be a story of many people, and many people are encouraged by what she does, and that is why she's here with us today. Now, my darling Doreen, but they have this problem. I love calling people darlings, so don't get shocked. I know you've done, yes. I love calling people darlings, Nishida, but I feel I love and embrace everyone.
It is well.
Your family now.
Yes, your family now.
Yeah.
So now, my darling Doreen, you had reached this place that you have come out.
Yeah.
You've come out, and now people are also reaching out to you. And this issue of stigma, you talked about an individual who was actually taking their medication in their boot because they did not want their partner to know that.
Yeah.
Now, I would ask you, have you had partners you've been afraid to talk to because you're a beautiful woman? And by the time you've reached, I'm sure you've dated.
Yeah.
Has it been a challenge for you to come out, or how's the journey been?
It is difficult.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can imagine.
Imagine.
It is difficult because people still refuse to look at people living with HIV as normal people. Like, you would think that 40 years into the pandemic, we're supposed to be like, it's okay, it's a normal thing. But no, it's not. You have to gain and gather that courage and then tell someone, and, because the first time I disclosed to someone I was about to date, he did not believe I had HIV.
He was one of those people who thought people
Yeah.
are spoiling your name or your line.
Exactly. In fact, he told me I was using it as an excuse to not want to date him.
Wow.
So he told me, let's go and get tested.
So
So
you actually thought you were joking.
yes. So on our first date, we actually got tested.
Day one.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
That's amazing.
That's a
Doreen.
serious man.
Yeah.
Can I
That's
go
a
with
man.
that issue?
Honestly.
That is a man with intention.
Intention.
That's the man I like.
Now, so you wait. I
You're
finish
about to
this
not to
story.
like
Like, let's go.
The story's about to change.
Now, so you wait. I finish this story. So we meet in Ngong Road, and then he tells me, well, let's just go to a clinic. We get tested first. So because that was supposed to be agenda number 1 on that date.
Okay.
So we go to the clinic. We tell the doctor we don't want counseling or anything of that sort. Tunataka tu confirmation. So we are given the confirmation. We pay. The test comes up. The doctor is there saying, you can live beyond this and all that thing.
You already
You know this, yeah, you know this.
Me, I already know what is happening. So the test definitely comes out. Actually, it was, I think, the same time I was not on my medication. So I was sure I will not even get a false negative.
Yes.
So it came out positive. My 2 strong lines, and then him is just 1 line. It's negative. So got into the car, and we were now coming back to town. The whole drive back was very silent.
Or Muman could not talk.
If it was not for the radio, I do not know what we were doing in that.
Thank you to all the radio presenters in this country.
Yeah. Wow.
You're hearing cricket.
Like, we did not even reach town. He left me in Hurlingham.
No
and
way.
he told me, I have some things I need to do in the office,
All of a
so
sudden.
we'll just meet some other time. And that was it. That was how it
How
all
did
came.
it make you feel?
Actually, it made me feel bad because, it's not like I had not said it from the beginning. I had said it.
That's
He
it.
just didn't believe it. That is not on me. It is him who chose not to believe me.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was like, going forward, talking about this is going to be a little bit hard.
Yes.
But then again, at that point, I had now started coming out in the media.
Yes.
So, once you're in the media, if somebody
And
just
he had not
Googles your name,
Googled you?
It'll come up.
no, he had not Googled me.
Oh.
So,
Such a serious man.
so after that, now it was like some people you tell them they're okay, some you tell them they're like, some of them are like, yeah, I'm good, I don't mind. In fact, I like your honesty. And then, ooh,
The honesty ends on
the
that
honesty ends on that. I like your honesty because there's a guy who once like insisted. He's like, I don't mind dating you. I am just okay with you like that. So he's like, okay, now come over to my come over home for a sleepover. I stood him up 3 times.
You stood him up 3 times.
3 times.
We all know what home dates are. We're not
Exactly.
here-
It is
at
not
our
praise
home.
and worship.
He's one of
Of
those
course.
people. He's one of those people.
Baba. Oh, Baba.
Well, Baba.
Yeah, it's not praise and
So,
worship. We know.
The 4th time he told me, no, you're not serious. I'm serious about you, nini. So you know the way they guilt trip you. So I was
I'll
okay,
cook
fine.
for you.
I will cook for you. You just come. So I went.
Arnold, you
Oh
here.
God.
He's a cooker. He's one of those people.
See, why you just airing me out now?
No, that's what Baba does, baby.
So now I went to his place. So I've reached there. He's like seated on the other side, on the edge of the sofa. I'm like, okay, what is happening?
Hiya.
What is going on? But I'm like, okay, fine. Maybe it is just, it's normal. So we go to sleep. After he's like sleeping at the edge of the bed.
Hiya.
And he's been the one who's
He's been the one who has been called. I stood him up 3 times and still he was very angry at me. So now he's basically at the edge of the bed. In fact, he's about to fall. So me, because I had left work, I slept. Then in the morning I woke up, I'm like, oh, I am not in my house. And then I reached out to him. The guy almost fell from the bed.
Are you
Aye,
serious?
He literally almost fell. I was like, and then he tells me, it's not really you. I'm just not prepared for this. I'm like, eh?
He found
You
out.
were the one who invited me to your house. Like, why are you it actually makes you feel really bad because I'm like, you made me come all the way. Like I had left work. My shift ended at 11 p.m. I was supposed to go back to my house and sleep.
I know you're doing a shift like us. So, hey.
Yes.
It honestly, it made me feel really bad. And then he didn't even text me that day. It was like 3 days later is when he's telling me, you're an amazing person, but I am not the person for you.
It is you. It is not you. It is me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
those are lines men like
You see,
using.
so those
Generally.
and some of the people like they hit on you, but they're like, I like you despite your status.
I want you to hold that thought. Hold that thought, darling. If you join the conversation, we're talking to Doreen Moracha. Gentlemen, ladies, have you been told those lines? It's not you. It is me. I'm not in the right space of mind. Things are not working out. And just maybe he's found out something about you and he doesn't want to come clean. Shame on us. If you join the conversation, this is SpiceFM. We are talking to Doreen Mora Onyancha, and the conversation today is demystifying the HIV stigma. Good evening to you, my darlings. It's exactly 9 p.m. The station is SpiceFM. The show is The Adults in the Room. If you join the conversation, we're talking to an HIV activist and the founder of I Am Beautiful Story. That is Doreen Moracha. And we're talking about demystifying the stigma of HIV. Before we went on the break, Moraa was telling us how she slightly got stigmatized without knowledge, but it just came to her when she'd gotten a partner and this partner was like, it's not you, it's me, and you're an amazing woman. Go on, my darling.
So you see, all those kind of situations make you feel like, okay, this person no. And some people, I have dated people, yes, but at some point they always feel like HIV is going to be the burden.
Yeah.
Like for some reason, it just always comes up. Some of them tell you, stop talking about it on the media because now my relatives will find out about it and then it's going to be a bad thing. And you're like, now, how am I supposed to, like just say, no, I am not doing this because my partner does not want it. He's not there. He's not the one living with HIV. I am.
Yes.
So, and it's funny that I have never really dated a person living with HIV like me, because everybody I've dated is HIV negative. But it is always the HIV conversation always comes up. Some people even tell you, so tell me, how is it dating you? And you say, I am just a normal person. If I'm on my medication, I'm not going to infect you. Because a person who is living with HIV and takes the medication very well reaches a point called undetectable viral load.
Yes.
When you reach an undetectable viral load, you cannot infect your partner. And that is actually how even women living with HIV are able to give birth to children who are not living with HIV.
Because of the undetectable viral load.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I've heard that there are those who actually can give birth to children. Some children are positive and some children are negative. What actually happens?
Well, that depends with the time the mother started treatment. Because if the mom finds out that there may be, a mom can be HIV, can be pregnant. Maybe the first trimester, it's in the window period, so it's not the test comes out negative. And then maybe in the second trimester now, it's after 6 months, the HIV antibodies are now active in the body. And mother-to-child infection happens during conception, during birth, and during breastfeeding.
Yes.
So it might happen during conception, maybe in the second trimester when nobody really knew that she had actually now the HIV now had become active, or maybe during conception. But most of the time during conception, it's usually a healthcare worker error. So they are usually advised to be very careful. That is why at some point, women living with HIV were told to give birth via CS, unlike the natural way, because so that they can really avoid any way of the child getting HIV during birth.
Yeah, actually, I've had friends who've actually gone through that through CS because of such, so that their children do not contract it.
Exactly.
And then they put them on formula.
Yeah. Immediately the child is born, they're put on prophylaxis.
Yes.
And they stay on prophylaxis for a whole 2 years. And for the first 6 months, it's exclusive breastfeeding. No water, nothing.
Wow.
Just breast milk. Because the minute you mix something else, you're putting that child at risk of getting HIV.
As in, you don't breastfeed.
You breastfeed for
breastfeed
6 months
only.
exclusively.
Yeah.
Really?
No water, nothing
No
else.
water, nothing else.
Wow.
So after that is when...
Now, after the 6 months, now you can start on the small foods while the child is still on prophylaxis. The prophylaxis goes on for 2 years. After 2 years is when this child is declared HIV negative.
Right.
Okay.
So even within those 2 years.
Even within those 2 years, the child is still being tested, but still they're called HAIs, highly at-risk infants.
And the question I want to ask about that is, after the 2 years, is there a possibility that a child could actually not turn negative?
Yeah.
So it's one of those 50-50 chances.
That is why they're highly at-risk infants, because it's those 50-50 chances of the mother can do everything right and still the child comes out positive.
Okay. Karigo had a question for her.
So my question to you is this. Before I ask you my question, there's someone on Twitter who said, waiting to hear from the horse's mouth. And I'd love to know whether Doreen has a nuclear family of her own and how she's going about it. By the way, she's some really beautiful girl. Wa baba na waona sana. Watu wa Twitter na wajua. But I mean, do you want a nuclear family of your own when the time comes? Do you have a nuclear family of your own? Sorry, first and foremost, do you have a nuclear family?
I do not have a nuclear family of my own.
Yet.
Yeah, I don't know whether I want to
Do you want to have one?
I am not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it because of the stigma?
That too does count, because, a family is not just you and your partner. It is beyond them. Yeah, and now I am public.
They are relatives.
They are relatives. Because I remember one time I asked somebody I was almost dating, they were watching me with his mom on TV. And I joked and told him, have you told her this is your daughter-in-law? And that conversation kind of became cold.
Wow. Very quickly, I imagine.
So, you see, there's the aspect of the family members, because your in-laws are always you know,
They play
there's
a
that.
role, yeah.
They might think you're coming to kill their son because
Yeah.
for some reason the misinformation around HIV,
Yes.
Yeah, and there's so much misinformation.
There's a lot.
a lot.
But what I would really want to ask, and maybe this might be very, very personal. So if you want to share, great. But I
Okay.
hope you do. How's the financial bit been since you began taking control? Now it's not your family, it's you
Yeah.
as an adult towards developing and bettering your life. You know, meeting people socially.
Yeah.
But financially,
In terms of medicine?
in terms of medicine, the care, the food, you know, the specifications you need to ensure that you live a healthy life.
Yeah.
How has it been financially?
Very straining.
Yeah.
Ever since, even growing up, even right now that I'm on my own, is still straining because you have to be to ensure that your diet is extremely healthy. And extremely healthy diets are very expensive.
Yeah.
They are.
And the doctors are there telling you eat fruits and vegetables, and fruits and vegetables are not like, you know, because even if it's just spending 20 shillings on a watermelon every day,
Yes.
in a week that is
100.
like 100 shillings.
And that piece
And
is
that's
not
just-
enough.
And
Yeah.
and that piece is not enough, so
enough.
that you're taking like on the lower side, you see. And actually when COVID came, it even opened up, like I got to see that I think HIV is a disease for the rich. Like I kind of think so, because the people who could not afford food,
Yeah.
Yes.
and then you look at it like, I am going to bed on an empty stomach with medication that I need to take, because HIV is not just about taking your medication every day. The nutrition part, the mental health part, those ones are usually left behind. So like when you when we are telling maybe even the government, we need support.
Yes.
They say which kind of support, nutritional support, and then they send us those UG for TB people. No, that is not what we really
That's
want.
true.
It's because sometimes also when you have opportunistic infections, when I have opportunistic infections, I have to go into my pocket and get treated.
Yes.
Because that treatment is money.
Yeah.
And you even if you're using the NHIF card, there are things that when they find out you're living with HIV, they do not treat you with.
Which is still stigma if you
Which
think
is
about
still
it.
stigma,
Yeah.
because NHIF does not cover HIV positive
Yeah,
patients.
that's true.
Wow.
Even some
And
insurance
even some
companies.
insurance companies do not cover HIV positive patients, and even the UHC that they wanted to bring, there are issues that why are we covering HIV yet HIV is funded. So you still HIV is still being left behind, even though people are and you know now it's so that just because I have HIV, that is where my problems end. Other non-communicable diseases are still, especially if you're growing with the HIV, there's pressure, there's diabetes, all of those things come. I know people who are living with HIV and they have heart problems. How do you really expect them to balance it? Because at every time I am sick, it is just me.
Yes.
There is no support. There is no donor support. The donor supports only my treatment.
Yes.
That ends there. If I am sick, it is me. If it is the food, it is just me. If it's me having to do like whatever I have to do, it is just me. And it's actually a strain. And a lot of people don't really get that part, that you strain. So when COVID-19 came, I actually realized HIV is a disease for the rich people.
Yes.
How is access to ARVs?
Yeah. Right now, especially.
Right now we have a shortage, a huge one. Our ARVs are stuck at the port. Still, yeah.
Wow.
But USAID has refused to release
How long has
them.
it been?
Since February.
Wow.
It's a long time,
Goodness
guys.
me.
It's a long time. And unfortunately, I wish our government could just domestic fund our ARVs, maybe start producing them locally like South Africa does.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we are very donor dependent.
Yeah, we all know why.
And one day when that donor becomes very mad and leaves, a lot of
Be
people
stuck.
will die.
Yes.
Because right now we have issues when it comes to viral load testing and treatment. Because now people have been like, for over 6 months, people don't know their viral load. So I'm just taking medication.
Yes.
And I don't know whether it's working or not. Mothers who are pregnant need that viral load to confirm that I am indeed still undetectable and still able to give birth to a HIV negative child.
Yes.
Right.
So you see, it's like, just take your medication and then we shall find out about the viral load
When things
later.
get better.
Yeah.
The treatment also is, there's the issue of treatment, because now you go to hospital. We were used to the 6 months and now we are being given 2 weeks or 1 month.
You used to be given like dosage for 6 months.
For 6 months, yeah.
Okay.
Now we're being given 1 month or 2 weeks, depending with the facility.
And some people really have to travel to get their medication.
Exactly, because of the stigma. If I live in Kisumu, I take my medication in Kakamega, nobody knows me there.
Yes.
Would you say some of our hospitals or some of our clinics or health workers are the ones who cause a stigma?
They actually do. They kind of fuel stigma in a way. And that is why some people, especially like in rural areas, cannot go to the nearest facility. Instead, they have to travel to a more far facility. Because if I go to the nearest facility, this person might come back to the village and tell the rest of the people that I am living with HIV. So I don't want that.
How have you handled as a person, as Doreen? Because you've been through this process.
Yeah.
And by the time you sit on this platform and many other platforms and share your story and talk about this, and I know you must have gone through stigma in their ways, how would you say you've handled it for someone who's listening to you and they feel like, hey, I've been stigmatized or I'm going through this or I'm afraid of this and that?
Yeah.
How best can they handle that?
Honestly, stigma doesn't end. It's like a never-ending journey. So it's not something I'll tell you that it will end tomorrow. Like I will tell you medication will at some point be available.
Yes.
So unlike that, stigma is a mentality of people. And these people started way back. They were taught these things in school. They saw these things in billboards. We all saw the billboard of the very thin man and the Ukimwi Unaua billboard.
And they were not good billboards.
And they were not good billboards. And the government has really refused to change that picture from Kenyans' minds.
They still have documentaries on that.
I think they should come up with a different campaign to actually kill that completely. And it's going to be a never-ending journey. You will be stigmatized by the very people who are very close to you. Some of them who are very extremely educated, who you would actually expect to like have information, know all of these things, but they're still the same people who will stigmatize you. They're still the same people who people say, but no, there is no stigma nowadays. But until you have actually experienced stigma, then you might say, there is no stigma nowadays. Because nowadays people treat you how you got HIV.
Yes, that's the source of
that
it.
is the source of it. I am living with HIV. How did you get it?
Yes.
So now it's no longer you're living.
It is no longer you're living. It is how you got it. And when you say I was born with it, you're like, oh my God, you did not choose it. But you see, nobody wakes up and chooses to be HIV positive.
Yes.
So does it mean the person who got it and they were not born with it, we're going to stigmatize them differently
because
or a different level because of that?
Now you are promiscuous.
So we are treating you differently than
Very
the one
differently.
Doreen
Alizaliwanayo. This
which
one,
is not a good thing.
Yeah, she got it through birth. She did not choose it. And then when at some point they tell you, oh my God, so how many people have you infected? Yes, atukatai, you were born with it, but how many people have you infected?
Goodness, and the thing about this is, it's not even anybody's business.
Exactly.
This is your own private.
So like
experience.
stigma never ends. It's something that it's like you have to just incorporate that. I have to find a way of coping with people. Will always make mean jokes about people living with HIV.
Yeah.
They will see you losing weight. They will say, hey, kwani nowadays you have gotten
Unakufa.
HIV. Exactly.
Yeah.
They will see you taking medication and then they will be like, okay, so now people decided that you have to take this medication for the rest of your life. So it is just something that will always be there. And you have to figure a way out of just living beyond that stigma and living beyond what people will say. Because nowadays people are on social media, they decide to just post a picture and say this person has HIV or this person is spreading HIV to people. And you can't really do anything about it. So until people, like both people living with HIV and people who are not living with HIV decide we are now looking beyond HIV, then that is when how we will end stigma.
According to Doreen, and I agree with her, we need to start looking beyond HIV. We need to start looking beyond the personality and know that they are also humans like us. If you join the conversation, we're talking about demystifying the HIV stigma. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Doreen. First, if you join the conversation, this is SpiceFM. The show is Adults in a Room. We're talking about demystifying the HIV stigma. Doreen, I'm sure people have told you you're beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you take that comment positively or negatively?
It depends with the context.
It depends. Why?
Because sometimes, because I do most of my social media, I use my photos.
Yes.
Right.
I use my photos because a lot of people have not given a face to HIV.
That's true.
So I want to give the face to HIV so that when you say I'm living with HIV, they see there is a face, there is a person, and they're living this journey.
There's a reality.
And there is a reality to that. And there's life more than the status. But now some people say, oh my God, the way you're beautiful, kumbe you have HIV. You see, having HIV is not exactly a limitation to beauty or being handsome. It is just a health condition. So you can't really weigh the beauty of a person by the health condition they're living with. That is just a journey. It has nothing to do with their HIV status. So, but a lot of people tend to make it look like, I don't know, maybe people living with HIV are supposed to look a particular way.
It's a misconception.
It's a misconception.
Now, speaking of misconceptions, I'm sure in your journey, you've had a lot of people say a lot of different things. How have you, or what are some of these misconceptions that a lot of people have about your status? I know for myself, I have someone close to me who is also living with HIV. And through that experience, I've learned a lot about really what living with it looks like. So what have been some of the misconceptions that people have made about your status?
Well, most of them just surround themselves around infection. People saying, I can get HIV for you. Just infect me so that we can both live with HIV.
Wow. Surely that's someone with intention.
This gender.
Just infect me so that we can, both be HIV positive. I really don't mind it. But you see, there is a science behind HIV infection. And it is not just like infecting people. My parents are a discordant couple to date over 30 years later, which means that discordant couples do exist.
Yes.
But there's that, and then there's the pity that comes with the oh my God, you didn't choose to be like this. Oh my God, you're so pretty, you're not supposed to be having HIV. Like,
Kwani, it's for ugly people.
That is also my question.
I see even some saying, "Hey, you're so learned and informed,
you're very informed." And some people think that just because you're living with HIV, you know everything about it. So somebody will ask you about what they're going through, the opportunistic infections they have, and they're like, "But just because I'm living with HIV does not mean that I've gotten all the opportunistic infections, and just because you're going through this or that does not mean that I have also gone through it." Remember, we are different.
Yes.
Like what works for you will definitely not work for me. And then there is also the prayer people who tell me their church prays for people so that they can get healed. There is the herbalists who have a cure for HIV.
They come from a region where Arnold is. Some of Arnold's bloodline come from there.
My people.
So there are those who are like, oh, she is definitely, I can get to somebody to, to just like heal you. Those are like, oh my God, it's such a pity that you actually have HIV. We are really praying for a cure to come soon. It is 40 years.
Wow.
40 years later, you can honestly be just too oblivious to know that we need to learn to live with this disease.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the issues we have with HIV and why we have not ended HIV by now is because we have not learned to live with it. We still hope that at some point it's supposed to go away and then we will remain without it. But no, it's here. And the problem with the pandemics is they come.
Yes.
Now we have COVID. After COVID, we might have another one. And
there's something she said, very important, that it's a pandemic. You have to learn how to live with a pandemic and not have the expectation of it going anywhere anytime soon. But I have a question that's been really burning me.
Okay.
How have your friendships and your social life been? How have your friends, your adult friendships, your healthy adult friendships, how have they been in support with your journey, with your activism, with you having a voice and putting a face on social media? Has it been easy or have you been all on your own?
Actually, I think with my friends, it's been easy. Okay. They think I am a celebrity. So
then it's like, let's take a selfie.
Yeah. So there is that. But then there are those who just treat me like a normal person.
Yes.
And they're like, it's okay. Like, it's not a big deal.
So there has been no stigmatization
There's
amongst
Doreen
your friends.
first,
Yeah.
then
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most of my friends have not really looked at Doreen from Doreen, the person living with HIV.
Wow.
They look at me as a very normal person,
Yeah.
which is, I don't know, I find it sometimes strange.
Really? Why?
No, because a lot of people, especially people who know me from social media, tag me on the HIV thing. Like if they see HIV written anywhere, the first thing that comes into their mind is Doreen.
Yeah.
But now my friends are like the normal people. And they just take me like Doreen, the normal person,
Kawaida.
the kawaida person.
Doreen, my friend.
Doreen, my
sister,
friend,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so even if when my like, let's say like a friend of mine posts me and they're like, oh, Doreen, my friend, and they're like, you know this girl, I also know her.
Right.
But they don't
right.
know. You only know you socially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So them, they know the Doreen on social media who talks about HIV. This other person knows the Doreen who is a normal person who just, you
And
know.
they're celebrating or having life with her.
Exactly.
And
So,
the interrupters end up writing wrong things on these posts.
Yes.
yeah,
Paul, my darling.
it is well.
But the question I would then now want to follow up with the friendship is how has your mental wellness been through this whole journey until where we are? And of course, there are things that you do to cope with the stigma,
Yeah.
with the oh, you're so pretty, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, we've already said that those two are separate. So how has your mental wellness journey been? What have you been doing to cope? Somebody may be listening
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, she seems like she has her life very,
Very
well put together.
together.
But are there certain mental aspects that you experience? And if you do, please share with them, or share them with us. And how do you cope? How do you manage? How do you get by mentally?
Okay. So you see, one of the things about living with a long life, a health condition, is your mental health has to be stable. And if it's not, you have to ensure that you are seeking the right professionals to help you go by. And you must have a strong support system. You cannot live with a lifelong health condition on your own. That is one thing you can't.
Very important to say.
You need a support system. A lot of people think that as long as it's just me and my doctor, your doctor is not going to be there at 10 p.m. when you're looking at your ARVs and you can't even take them. And you're just looking at them and you're tired and you just don't want to take them. There's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with you. You just don't feel like taking them. So that one of the things I have is a very strong support system, right? From my mom, who calls me every day to ask me if I have taken my medication every day.
Yes.
To date, it is her duty. She has been like the lifelong caregiver. So you have to have that support system that is always there for you. So I cannot really say that mentally, like I have had experience like hard times. So stress is there because it's a normal thing.
Yes.
But apart from the normal stress of life, most of the time I'm just a normal person doing life the normal way and just like living this thing called life. But I know, you know, when you come out publicly, a lot of people expect that you will not face stigma, but you will.
Okay.
Doreen, hold that thought. I want us to continue that on your coping mechanisms.
Okay.
If you're joining the conversation, we're talking to Doreen Moracha, demystifying the HIV stigma. And most of all, she's telling us how she's learned to cope. Do you have a support system? If you don't, living positively, and most of all, living HIV positively, needs you to have a support system. Conversation with a lady who's just made me realize we are just fine. People can live positively and just live fine. Have you looked at her? Yeah, I hear some of you saying, she's pretty, she's beautiful. I can confirm that it is true. She's fine. She's very fine. If you're listening to the conversation, this is SpiceFM. The station, of course, not this Asiani. The station is SpiceFM. The show is the adults in the room. Today's adults are 5. We have you, Doreen Moracha, we have Arnold, we have Karigo, and I have opened the lines 0719-012-600. I want to hear what you have to say. Hello, Spice.
Hello, SpiceFM.
How are you, sir?
I'm good.
What is your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Nado from Pondeti.
You're who? I know something Pondeti.
Okay, my name is Nado from Pondeti.
Oh, yes. What are your question or what are your thoughts about the conversation?
Okay, my thought of this conversation is...
Yes, we can hear you.
hello.
I can hear you.
Okay, are you getting me?
Yes, I can. Continue. Hello, my dear. Please call me back. I seem to have lost you. Hi, Geoffrey.
Hi.
How are you, my dear?
Poa, mambo.
Salama sana. Za kwako?
Mimi ni mzima, namshukuru Mungu.
Tunasema asante. Una swali
Hebu
ama una
nikupe-
maoni ya leo?
Nina maoni na pongezi pia.
Asa, endelea.
Sasa wajua Sara moja Geoffrey, aibu ni kwamba sasa huyo dada mrembo simuoni, manake si mlikamuzi. Ushaona hasara hiyo nani?
Na kusikiza. Lakini si unanijua. Basi niamini jamani.
Yaani okay. Nisalimia mpishi mwenzangu kwa baba yangu na ile dada mwingine.
Wacha wewe mpishi. Mpishi ni cook.
Mpishi ni cook.
Oh, Doreen, by the way, this guy I know Swahili. Mpishi ni cook. Mpishi mwenzako anakusalimia.
Oh, right.
He likes cooking for chicks, apparently.
Okay.
Tumesalimika. Habari yako?
Nzuri sana.
Umeshinda vyema?
Sasa sasa kwanza naomba kumpongeza dada Doreen kwa ujasiri wake.
Just umepotea. Mwalimu Kamau.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Very fine.
It's been a while.
Yes, a very big while, but I'm good.
Thank you very much. What are your thoughts about the conversation?
Very nice. I like Doreen. You know, this thing of stigmatization is just a bad thing. And it becomes worse when people don't understand you.
Yes.
You know, stigmatization and discrimination may lead to even stress and depression.
Yes.
Yes.
And something which is very bad about discrimination and this stigmatization is that it is done by people who you think are supposed to be in the front line supporting you.
Yes. Yes.
And good thing about children will not discriminate you. But when it comes to these adults and the educated and people who are good in thinking, they're the worst.
Yes.
I'm speaking this from my perspective as a person with disability.
Yes.
The person you think that they are supposed to take care about you or to know more about you are the ones who are the worst.
Yes. Yes.
And I just understand what Doreen is speaking about. But, you know, a good thing is when you get yourself in such situations, there's this inner feeling that one gets. There's this inner power and strength that one becomes or gets.
Yeah.
I don't know where it comes from, but you find yourself uko na nguvu yenye haukukuwa mbeleni wakati wewe ulikuwa maybe without the virus. Even you become more bolder and better. And I think the country and people are supposed to support persons living with HIV, just like their brothers and sisters.
Yes, they
It's
should.
not a big deal.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your thoughts. Hello, Spice.
Hello, how are you, Barbara?
Fine, thank you. What is your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Brian. I'm calling from Eldoret.
Talk to me, my dear.
Oh, okay, so I congratulate Doreen for the first discount.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Just to say this, I was also born with HIV. And growing up has been it has been a battle. I mean, going through primary, going through high school, and even campus,
Yes.
with the stigma involved. It wasn't easy, but looking at someone like Doreen and following her gave so many of us hope. So I just want to congratulate her. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for sharing. What is Douglas saying on Facebook?
Douglas is saying, just getting you clear from South B Commercial. Your show is ever my learning source center. To me, I have not directly interacted with a positive status person, but others relate the situation to witchcraft and hide on that. Nobody on the ground advocates like our guest today. They decide to spread it instead.
Okay. Hello, Spice. How are you? Please reduce the volume of your radio or your gadget, then you can proceed. Hello, Spice. Hi, my dear. Aya, hao wako bado wajaamini simu imeshikwa. Hi, Geoffrey.
Pole.
Airtime ilikuwa kidogo ama line ilikatika. Haya, tuwasiliane tafadhali. Please proceed.
Kuna mtu amenitatiza.
Oh, pole.
Okay, sasa angalia. Hiyo Sister Moraa. Ina shaka nilisikia kitu BBC kama wiki mbili zilizopita.
Ulimsikia mahali?
Ndio, na kile ambacho anakupa sema vile ni jamaa anavyomsumbua kimwambia wewe una hiyo kitu bora ni tukataa.
Geoffrey, hebu niwekee simu yako vizuri, hatuwezi kukusikiza, unakatika.
Okay, nakwambiaje? Unanipata sahi?
Tunakupata.
Yes.
Okay, basi acha niende
Basi enda sitting room. Geoffrey, unanifanya maneno leo jamani. Umefika sitting room?
Okay, acha niendelee.
Endelea.
Okay, nasema kwa Hello. Unanipata vizuri sio?
Tunakupata. Endelea.
Kwa hivyo nachokumbuka sisi alisema kwamba jamaa alikuwa anamsumbua kimwambia hauna ugonjwa ni kukosa unakataa.
Ndio.
Katika interview ambayo nilisikia. Sasa mimi kwa jamii, kwa Wakenya na wote wanaosikiliza kwa ujumla, ni kuwafanyia stigma hiyo kuna wale ambao wana ugonjwa wa ukimwi, kwa sababu ni ugonjwa cha pili. Hakuna mtu ambaye ugonjwa akasema basi mimi nataka kunywa na chukua. Ushaona? Watu wajifunze na wajichukulie ingekuwa kama ingekuwa ni mimi badisha nafanya hiyo stigma.
Kweli.
Pili, naomba kuhakikisha hiyo organization yake ni ya kuwapa wale ambao na changamoto support sio? Ndio. Muulize, je, anatalia pia wanaume wale ambao wako na uteseka ama ni kina pekee yao?
Tutamwambia atuambie kuhusu hiyo organization in the next link. Inaitwa I Am Beautiful. Sawa? Ndio. Asante. Hello, Spice.
Hello, Barbara.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you.
What is your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Steve and I'm calling from Karatina.
Talk to us, Steve.
Yeah, nimeenjoy kusikiza hiyo ni conversation. Salimia Moraa.
Nimesalimika.
Yeah. Alafu azini mwe tukua naye tunasikiza hata hapa hivi tuko kamba tulikuwa watu wanne. Lakini venye ametoka nje alikuwa anataka kuongea na wewe sana.
Mwambie atapiga tena niongeleshe. Anaitwa nani nimtumie salamu?
Anaitwa Robert.
Hi Robert, mwambie nimemsalimia from the Duchess of Economani.
Yeah.
Sawa.
Alafu si usalimia huyo?
Ninamsalimia, hata najua ni mgani, nitamsalimia. Hata ana smile. Hello, my darling.
Hello, mimi nimeenjoy sana. Yeah, actually it was my favorite, one of my best.
You have listened to the conversation. Thank you so much. Can we count on you to be an advocate of people not demystifying the HIV stigma?
Yeah, sure.
Please do that for us in your campus. And thank you for plugging in. Keep it spice always and tell a friend to tell a friend. Sasa, my darling.
Okay,
thank you. If you join the conversation, this is SpiceFM. The show is the Adults in the Room. Today's conversation, we were talking about demystifying the HIV stigma. And our guest was Doreen Moracha. When we come back, she'll be telling us about her being a founder and an activist, or something that is very close to her heart. And some of us have come to love and understand it of I am beautiful, or I am a beautiful story. I just had someone, but you know what I'm talking about.
Does it have to be a cheating wife?
It's an
Serious.
example.
Wives don't cheat.
It can be a cheating. Yeah.
Wives don't cheat. They have options.
I love that, Doreen. You're my WCW today. Number 2. WCW number 2. I love that. Hey.
We have real sober conversations.
Yeah.
So they were real, I'm going to be sober.
Yes.
Both sexes street. According to the notice.
Sana sana wa baba.
If you're joining the conversation, we are the adults in the room, and today's conversation was demystifying the HIV stigma, and we had a lady who is called Doreen Moracha. She's an HIV activist and the founder of I Am a Beautiful Story. Doreen, what is I Am a Beautiful Story?
I Am a Beautiful Story is an initiative that I created on social media to demystify the myths and misconceptions around HIV, give the right information, and also give people hope, people living with HIV hope that there is a beautiful life after your HIV diagnosis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it something that is funded by you, or you have sponsors, or how does it work?
So it is not yet sponsored or funded by anyone yet, but it is something that I've been running on my own, and I talk to schools, organizations, such kind of stuff, but I use storytelling as a tool in educating people and getting them to learn that apart from just HIV, there is the story part, and then there is the facts, and then this is it. So that is how I've been running it since 2015
on the digital space.
And now when somebody wants, like, come and talk to our organizations, we have this and that, come and talk to our young people, because we have a lot of young people who are even failing on treatment, and then I go and talk to them and I tell them, I've lived with HIV this long, and it's not a big deal as you guys want to take it. If somebody wants to date you, don't go there with, oh my God, my HIV status. No, just date them. If it ends in tears, we do an after tear party.
Yeah, I love this woman. I do those things by the way. These days, just go in.
Yes.
50-50. It can go well, it can go bad.
Yes,
if it goes bad, we're going to have an after tear party.
That's
Like,
true.
this is a conspiracy. This conversation, the way it's going.
No, it's true. You see, you can't always let HIV limit you.
I agree.
Yes.
That all the time somebody wants to take you on a date, and it's the first date, you're already overthinking about your HIV status. You can't. You just have to go into the date, eat things you have never eaten, and then go home.
I like that.
Just go home, because we overthink a lot, especially a lot of people living with HIV overthink on the HIV part. Yesterday somebody was in my DMs telling me, I'm giving up on taking medication. How do you take them every day? So I told them, do you ever give up on brushing your teeth? You don't. You just brush it. You don't see it as a big deal. You see it as a hygiene thing.
Yes.
So take the same concept and just take your medication just like that. And it gets easier by the day.
Yes, let's listen to Clinton, then I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Hi, Clinton.
Hello, SpiceFM.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine.
Habari ya Coast.
Tuko salama.
Proceed.
By the way, thank you for sharing. Yes.
Doreen, that was for you.
Oh, that was for me. Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Oh, thank you so much, Lee. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hello, Spice. Hello.
Hello.
What is your name and where are you calling from?
My name
is who?
I'm Robert.
Robert, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Karatina University.
Oh, you are the Robert.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about the conversation?
So my concern about the conversation is that outside here there are a lot of people who are suffering from that disease.
Yeah.
And they do face a lot of stigma. What I want to say is that being a victim is not the end of life. And life must go on.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there are a lot of people suffering outside there, different diseases. So being a victim of that disease does not mean that that's a death penalty. Just take the medication the way you are being told or advised by your doctor, and take all those precautions. Respect your life, and God will also praise you, and you will just stay long.
Okay. Thank you very much, Robert. Doreen, if I wanted to plug into I Am a Beautiful Story, how can I reach you? How can I support you? Or how can we plug into that?
You can follow me on my social media platforms. on YouTube, I Am a Beautiful Story. On Instagram, Doreen Mora Moracha. Facebook, Doreen Mora Moracha. Twitter, D_Mora. TikTok, DEE.
Many TikToker.
Mini TikToker.
Wow. I've never met anyone on TikTok, by the way. The first person. Only I'm how old?
At least both of you are in TikTok.
Yeah, I'm not on TikTok, but
Mora01. Because basically, I just want to, social media has this negativity. All the news goes on social media, like fake news, good news, bad news. So I'm using that space to create a different narrative that there is actually something good that can come out of social media, because every time you hear people blaming social media for something bad, so it's time we use it for something good, to tell the young people there, because you find people who are like 18, 17, 16, and they're telling you, I'm living with HIV, I've lived with it this long, I just found out, and they want to look at you and like tap into your courage and your strength, and just make that their daily living inspiration. And that actually makes me happy, because the people who tell me, I have learned to accept myself by watching your YouTube videos. And I feel like, oh my God, I've reached somebody who I've not really reached, but they're actually like learning that this person is living a normal life, and so can I.
It's like witnessing.
Exactly.
Now, do we have a pandemic with us? Corona or COVID? Think about it. Do you feel that the same stigma is being given to COVID patients is more or less what is being given to people with HIV, living with HIV?
Yes, I do. I actually feel like a lot of the COVID, even the response, the stigma related to COVID, it's basically the same thing. Right now, you can't travel to other countries because of COVID.
Yes.
There are countries that actually have a ban on people living with HIV.
Even now?
Yeah, there are 48 countries that have refused to remove the ban. Right now, there is a high-level HIV meeting going on. They're still calling upon those countries to open up for people living with HIV, but still they are stuck on, we cannot let people living with HIV to come to our countries. The same way as COVID. Right now, the greeting of hands is the same thing that happened with HIV when it first came.
Yes.
You could not share spaces. People were afraid this person can infect me. The same thing happening with COVID.
Yes.
The fear. It is just the same thing. So I think somehow our country handles pandemics badly.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's true. It's actually. And we need to unlearn better and do better. Karigo, what were you reading before we close this?
Gilo 254 says, I believe, Doreen, you are touching many souls tonight. Thanks, my favorite station, SpiceFM, for hosting at Doreen. You're welcome, Gilo. And he says, I commend you, Doreen, to keep on reminding people that we are beautiful tonight. She is hot. Wait, now I wanna.
You have a problem.
No, what Twitter? You have to warn them. You want people for Facebook? No, for Twitter. I have to keep an eye on them. Why? No, not a mem tag.
No, see, maybe could be that's a lady.
Mem tag.
Thank you to everyone who plugged in on the show. Tunasema asante sana. For those who called and I was not able to pick up, I'm sorry. Time was not on my side. I saw you all. Tomorrow is Thursday, so I expect you to come back tomorrow so that we can have more intriguing and exciting conversation. On behalf of the Spice team, I would like to tell Doreen, thank you so much for gracing and making time for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if you're wondering, as she says, I am a beautiful story, go to Twitter, go to Instagram, and if you're a TikToker, see you had. Yeah, najua kudance hizo vitu. For me, I can't catch up for that. And thank you so much once again for just sharing your life and sharing that. So for the rest of us, let us demystify the HIV stigma and also let us demystify the stigma that is around COVID-19. Thank you to everyone who joined the show. Tunasema asante sana. It is good night and God bless you from the whole team. Mwah, my darlings.